Oh, sure. Start the show off screen. I was backstage, bro. How you doing, people? All right, you can hear me? Good. Welcome back to Black Bear News, where everything is connected. And hope you all are well. Thank you for being here. We are live on Substack. Just went live. Live on Odyssey. Just went live. Chats are up for both, so if you want to watch over there. I did hear something from Odyssey today. Oh, thanks. I got what you meant. Yeah, all good. Yeah, it's a cozy one. I know I look like I'm dressed for Arctic adventure, but it's kind of chilly in here. I don't know. It's California. Like I rarely turn the heat on, but it's been chilly. It's not to the point of like, oh god dang, it's so cold, I got to turn the heat on yet. Not for me, anyways. Put a sweater on. Everything's fine. Oh, thank you for reminding me. You guys, thanks. You guys are. Hold on. Okay, chats are on the screen. I don't know why I can't remember to do these very simple things. Thanks. Thanks, Bella. It's been kind of weird lately. The internet has been my internet has been very spotty. Um, More often than not, and I don't know what's going on. Um, Standing in the sun with a jacket on in northeast Nevada, yeah, yeah. But what I did see today was that Cloudflare was down today. So my internet was out the other day. I don't know what happened. I don't know if it was the weather. I don't know. I have no insight. And then it kind of chopped out for a second yesterday in the morning, but not very long. And then it chopped out kind of today, this morning. I was kind of concerned about whether I was going to be able to do the show or not. Right, Denver, yeah. Yes, Ringtailed Fox. Cloudflare had major issues. So yeah, I don't know. Every time it kind of glitches out, I'm wondering what's going on. But today, I think my answer was that it was a Cloudflare thing, most likely. But I don't know. Luckily, it's back and working, and so we can have a show. Maybe it's not a good reason to centralize everything under the same few companies. Yeah, for sure. For sure. Your bank was down for a bit too? Oh no. Yeah, the other day my bank forced me to change my password that the same password I've had for like 20 years. And the reason why I never changed this password is because it was in my head and there was no way that anybody ever knew this password. And so although I don't know, lately the internet seems to be able to read my mind, so maybe a password saved in your head is not safe. I don't know. Not sure. Anyways, they forced me to change my password after like 20 years of having the same password. And so I tried to change my password and they were like, "We can't find your account." And I was like, "What the hell is going on?" So I called them and changed, and I talked to a rep and they helped me change my password, but he's like, "Yeah, this is happening. We're getting a lot of calls." I'm like, "You guys don't lock people out of their bank accounts. Like, say you don't know, you have no, knowledge of their existence." Like that's kind of a scary moment, I think, for a lot of people. Get Bitwarden. Manage changing your passwords, changing them if there's an outage. Yeah, okay. Okay. Good password, extra bull, yeah. All right. Mr. Wizard on Substack says OpenAI. I don't know if I can actually see this chat here on Substack. OpenAI blocks toy maker after its AI teddy bear is caught telling children terrible things. Sounds about right. Well, did I play you that video of the AI in the car telling a child, like, starting to get really weird with a child in the car? Seems be a thing that AI is specializing in. Oh, what I was going to say is Odyssey said something about being able to watch the stream. If I'm streaming on YouTube, basically you can watch the stream on Odyssey through YouTube. What I would like to know is if that would help. If you're watching the stream on Odyssey through YouTube and you send a chat, if I can see if your chat will come up as if it's on YouTube, which would be kind of helpful. It's why it's hard for me to manage all these chats at the same time. Anyways, that's some kind of news I heard this morning from Odyssey. Okay, let's talk about some things. Ecuador votes against allowing foreign military bases in the country, and this is against the leadership. The leadership of Ecuador is very friendly with the U.S. They're all up in the U.S.'s DMs all the time. They're trying to get with the U.S. Absolutely, Mr. Wizard. Should let AI drive semi-trucks and do air traffic control. Oh, yeah. And medical advice and, all kinds of things. Criminal identification. That seems to be going well. Doesn't ICE have all this like high-powered AI facial rec? And they keep arresting people with no criminal records. They just block anybody. They're just completely indiscriminate when it comes to whoever they tackle and then carry off to be flown to another country. But it's like, guys, you're not really doing a great advertisement. If you're running all of your stuff through AI, it's not really proving to be very efficient. Let's see. Ecuador votes against allowing foreign military bases in the country. Ecuadorians have voted against allowing the return of foreign military bases in the country, frustrating U.S. hopes of expanding its presence in the Eastern Pacific region. I said Pacific. The referendum result is a blow to Ecuador's President Daniel Noboa, who had campaigned to change the constitution to reverse a ban that the country's legislature passed in 2008. Back when they were really on the ball. He had said it would help fight organized crime and reduce the soaring violence the country has seen in recent years. Of course, all for your safety. During which it has become one of the world's biggest drug trafficking hotspots. And nothing to do with them being friendly with the U.S. and it becoming a drug trafficking hotspot. The fact that those two things coincide, nothing to do with each other whatsoever. Give it to me, Denver. I want to hear. I want to hear it. Ooh, shoot. I'm sorry if. Hold on one second. Dang it. What is going on here? Hold on. I don't know what's happening. Kate's over on Substack. How you doing, Kate? Let me get back to reading this article. Sorry, I was badly sidetracked there. The U.S. had hoped the referendum would pave the way to opening a military base in Ecuador 16 years after it was made to close a site on its Pacific coast. While Ecuador does not produce cocaine, its huge ports in proximity to Colombia and Peru, where large quantities of the drug are made it a desirable and lucrative location for drug trafficking gangs. The idea that they want to open a military base under the guise of fighting drug trafficking is just absolutely hilarious. Hold on. About 70% of the world's cocaine passes through Ecuador. And the president's like, oh, I just don't know what to do. Shuckums. Man, this is a problem. Seriously. You don't think he knows what's going on? You don't think he's scraping, along with everybody else in the government, scraping some money from that operation? Absolutely ridiculous. Anyways, he wants a U.S. military base, but they put the vote to the people, and the people are like, nah. The referendum also saw voters reject ending public funding for political parties. Nice. Shrinking the size of Congress. Nice. And establishing a constitutional assembly to rewrite Ecuador's constitution. Man, the people are like, hey, listen, we want these things. That is, it's a lot of cocaine. The people are like, hey, we want these things. Let's see if these things actually get enacted. Because what happens here in the US is the people are like, hey, we took a vote and the people voted and they like this thing. And then if it doesn't serve the interest of the ruling class, they're like, you know what? It's nice that you guys voted and stuff. And we hear you, we hear you. But it's not going to happen. We're going to overturn that. Yeah, as soon as we can. Every time they vote out fracking, every time they vote, whatever it might be. They're like, no. It doesn't always happen, but it's a very common occurrence. Very common occurrence. Okay. So Ecuador, this is kind of part of the U.S. wants to have a bigger military presence in South America. So this is in line with that intention. Got a couple people over on Odyssey. Thanks for watching on Odyssey, y'all. But all of this stuff is, just like the war on terror in the Middle East and the war on whatever over here and over there, we've got to get rid of the bad guys. Or they're going to come and bring communism to, or, all of these things are absolutely just ridiculous concoctions. We've been involved, directly or indirectly, through intelligence agencies in drug trafficking and distribution. I mean, we were in Afghanistan for 20 years and the poppy business was booming while we were there. I wonder why. I mean, we're going over there supposedly, these people are bad and we want to, for your safety, and we want to get rid of the bad things going on over there. But the poppy business was booming, which indicates that drug trafficking was booming the entire time we were there. Just one of the reasons, I'm sure, that we were over there, besides all the money laundering going. I don't know how many billions or trillions we sent over there in military supplies, but a good portion of that, I'm sure, went to lining people's pockets. I'm pretty certain I'm like 99% certain of that. Another criminal operation that everybody involved should be charged with criminal offenses. and locked away for many years or maybe the rest of their lives for that. All right, let's keep going. We're going to get into dumb Democrat takes. They're supposed to be voting on releasing the Epstein files today. I don't know. I haven't heard any word. Apparently, they're going to release them. Apparently. But as I was talking about yesterday, and I saw quite a few other people, basically the same take I had, which was he's calling for releasing it now because they've already started these investigations. Be open investigations into the links between Epstein and the Democrats. And so they will be able to block whatever files they want. If they order the files released, they'll be able to block them if they deem them useful to the investigation that they've just opened. So it's all, again, a bunch of posturing. So while the Republicans are busy, Trump is busy taking a wrecking ball to the country, the Dems are running around figuring out ways to make themselves look like they care about you, which if you haven't received the memo, now would be a good time to open up your email and check out the memo from the Democrats saying, we actually really don't care. Brianna Joy Gray retweeting Sabby Sabs saying, reposting this. AOC says Jeffries' primary challenge, not a good idea. So Hakeem Jeffries is running for re-election, and AOC is out there saying, no, don't primary this guy. We don't need any competition. We don't need any opposition to Hakeem Jeffries, who is, famous, just like Cory Booker, famously sold out, completely owned corporate entity. He is not your friend. He's not on the side of the people. He is not your brother in arms. A call went out to the Dems that Hakeem Jeffrey should not have a challenger. The same people asking Schumer to exit want AIPAC Shakur to stay. Hakeem already has a challenger named Vance Bostic, and the media is ignoring this. Apparently, Mamdani chimed in that he should not have a challenger either. I don't know about that, but this is what Brianna Joy Gray is saying. Both have reportedly discouraged a primary challenge to Jeffries. She wishes someone would leak what they were told or what was threatened. Well, Jeffries is their man in New Amsterdam, and they need him to do the things that he's been hired to do, I guess. So the Democrats are doing Democrat things. So, I'm sorry. We're going to get back to the Democrats. I wanted to get back to this comment from Denver regarding the mind reading idea about the internet. The feeling that maybe it's reading your mind. From an engineer friend, it's happened to me more than that. Palantir connects the data layers. I know the walled data gardens are no longer in effect because there is a first-party attribution software that tracks conversations across platforms, not with cookies, but with first-party data. using digital fingerprints and doing a handshake connecting the dots between tech platforms. I get, I guess I can see that, but I feel like I feel like though I don't know how you that's what makes me wonder is how, something that you have to have data, you have to have some data for that to be like a, do you know what I'm saying? Like I'm talking about things that I have just thought about and not vocalized or verbalized or I don't know. Maybe there's a way. Maybe I'm missing something. Maybe I'm missing the idea that maybe I wrote something in a memo in a note or I don't know. Maybe. It just there's been some instances where I'm like, I didn't actually out loud anything. And I've heard other people say that too, but that I don't know. That's where the quantum comes in, maybe. I don't know. Maybe. Maybe. Or maybe I do know that they show you things to see how long you actually pay attention to it. And they also there's, at least as far as um iPhones go, right? They see where you're looking at on the screen. They look, they can read your eye movement, like what you're doing with your eyes, and that can be incredibly telling, right? So if they show you something and you react in a certain way to this thing, that could indicate to them that, oh, you identify with this, or this triggered something with you. And then that doesn't really take you verbalizing anything. It just takes you stopping for a little bit longer on a particular thing and looking a certain way at it, and that they gather a bunch of data from that. That could be something. So in a way, that is kind of like mind reading, because if they show you something, it's like being shown a Rorschach test, or they show you something and you react. They get your reaction from your eye scan to a certain thing in a way they can kind of gather what your emotional response is to it, and they can kind of profile that. I don't know. Yeah, maybe. Here's another person running on Medicare for all, stop funding genocide and abolish ICE. The interesting thing is he's a Parkland shooting survivor. um and if you understand a lot of around of if you understand kind of a basic thing that's happening with a lot of the shootings that go on in the country over his, especially over the last maybe 10 or 15 years, that a lot of them seem to have very telltale signs around them, a lot of imprints that are the same, meaning, maybe they're not completely organic. uh so when I see people connected to particular events that have happened in the past that may or may not be organic, then you could possibly extrapolate that, um, you know, maybe this person is connected in a way that we should know about, but we probably won't ever know, not until much later. So there's that. So I'll show you this guy. So this is Cameron Kasky, and his hashtag is yes we cam. Okay.
New Yorkers are always on the move, reaching new heights and rushing towards the future. But today's leaders just can't keep up.
He looks like
My name is Cameron Kasky, and I'm running for Congress because there's no real path forward for most Americans. You and your family are working all week just to spend most of your paycheck on rent and health care. Meanwhile, the richest people in our country are telling us that we can't afford real solutions like social housing and Medicare for all. No, we can only afford genocide, Palantir mass surveillance contracts, and ICE thugs. I'm running because we need people in Congress who are going to do something about it and work on laws that help all Americans. Isn't that crazy and radical? Turns out we actually can build a society where we're feeding children instead of tearing them away from their families, where streets are lined with federal housing and small businesses instead of the National Guard.
Well, we're going to have troops everywhere.
No, okay, sounds great. But I mean, my comment on this, my immediate take on this is like, okay, great. Another progressive saying the words, the good words that everybody likes to hear. And I'm like, okay, so we have supposedly elected progressives on these ideas in the past. Some of them are still in Congress. And have we seen any of these things come to pass? And not only that, have they come to pass, or have all of these issues gone in the other direction, as in these things have gotten worse, not better? I'm just asking. I'm just asking. Why have these things gotten worse, not better? Why have the conversations around these things continued to die? It's cute. Okay. Right? Like the conversations either just go away completely, or now healthcare is about to get more expensive, not less expensive, not freer, not betterer. There's still funding for genocide. There's still, ICE tromping around. Sure. Yeah, great energy. Love it. Sure, we spend all this energy like voting these people in and getting them in there, and then what are they going to do? Are they going to let us down again? Are they going to go, I can't, it's too much Republican resist. Oh no, what are we going to do? We have the majority in the Congress and the tie-breaking vote in the Senate, but oh no, we can't seem to get anything done. But damn it, you better vote Democrat, because it's not, if you don't, you're voting for Trump. And that is a dumb take. That is one of the dumbest takes in my life that I've ever heard. And it's really infectious. It started during the Bernie Sanders campaign. I'm sure there were instances of this in the past, but like it really ramped up during the Bernie Sanders campaign and just has gone on and on. If you vote for Bernie, you're you're going to allow Trump to win. Okay. I'm doing kind of a long spiel on dumb takes today. And it's very, there are a lot of dumb takes on the right side, and I'm not a fan. Not a fan of what's going on. I'm not a fan of the right. Never have been. Never will be. Just not. It's just not my groove. There was a time when I was so annoyed by Democrats that my brain actually like reached out a little bit, like, well, I mean, is it just just because I hate Dems so much? Is it feasible to vote for the GOP as an opposition? And then the answer was, heck no. No, that's dumb. That doesn't make any sense. Anyways, I was watching a video the other day of a woman saying, she was, okay, it was on Instagram. I'm sorry, I'm not showing the video, but I'm just going to define the video. Instagram, she was talking about doing like a spiritual retreat, and she was like going to lead a spiritual retreat, and somebody was like, how did you vote? I want to know how you voted in the last election so I can feel safe. And I was like, and the woman actually, her response was like, that's not pertinent to the thing, and it was like a response video. So somebody came in and says, well, we want to know, you better tell them who you voted for, because if you voted for Trump, then we won't feel safe. And it was kind of like, I was really like kind of annoyed by it, because for one thing, the woman did, we're talking about like the woman didn't look like she voted for Trump, but just by her if she gives a non-answer, that doesn't mean that you're like a bad person for not answering, or that, non-answer doesn't mean like you voted for Trump, which is almost the tone of the video was like, well, if you don't want to answer, that means you voted for Trump, which is just absolutely like just the dumbest and most insane take, like insane. And it really sucks, because people's emotions around politics have been so ratcheted up, and the division aspect of politics has been so like heightened. Like, I get it. I get like, you don't want to, you don't want to be around like racists, and I get it. You don't want to be around like people that are shitty people. Like, I get it. That's very, I understand that. But the idea that like, that you have to grill people on their politics when it doesn't really apply to the thing that you're that you're doing, is a little bit Gestapo like, and so that's like blue Gestapo. You're blue MAGA, basically. You're just, well, these people are out here indiscriminately rounding up people who look a certain way or who act a certain way, and we can do anything we want. We can feel any way we want about this. We can do, we can do whatever we like, right? We're totally justified, because suspicion is everything, right? Is more important. Suspicion is more important than the actual facts on the ground. And what you're basically doing that is, when you do that to people, is the same exact thing, right? It might not be on the level of like locking people up and detaining them, but you're, what? You're putting them in a corner, you're painting them with a brush, you're, saying maybe we want to, cancel you or call you a bad person, or, it's like, come on, man. Anyways, that's a dumb take. And on top of that, here's a kind of something on the same lines that I wasn't even. They're eating the pets. It's so messed up, because everything is so just insane. Everything is so insane, right? Like what is happening with the Trump administration is obviously insane. It's obviously insane. But I think somewhere between just the all-out assault on compassion and decency from the Trump administration and the, insistence that everybody, either think the way you do or, become a non-person. I think somewhere in the middle there is, or maybe, even if you're if you want to be closer to the left side, that's fine, whatever side you want to be on. But I think somewhere in the middle is like, understand that all people don't line up exactly with you. And that they're not bad people for doing that. But, supporting supporting the demolition of the Constitution and basically overt racism and criminal activity. I mean, that's not really great. So if you actually don't get treated, super kindly because you do support that, I'm going to understand that. I don't know. And I think in most cases, people are somewhere in the middle. But hey, there are lines for everyone, and you got to decide where yours are. If you want to be like, there are lines for everyone. You got to decide where yours are. I just think that, discernment is key. And the funny thing is things that are really important online aren't necessarily that important when you're not online. Like when you're out in the world and you're among people and you're with like friends and neighbors and family and stuff, like, there's a way more leeway around human behavior in the real world than on the internet. For some reason, I don't really understand it. Like, here we are on the internet, the information superhighway, where people are actually getting smarter, I think. I'm actually a fan of the internet. I'm a fan of the hive mind. I'm a fan of the fact that, all this information is, I think, contributing to people getting smarter, not dumber. However, it is also allowing people to be propagandized in a much bigger way. So maybe just the extremes are bigger, right? A lot of people are getting like super smart in a super fast rate, and a lot of other people are just getting absolutely having their brains like pushed out of their ears at a very high rate. They're like, ah. Anyways, so did anybody? Okay, Brianna's explaining something that happened during the Bernie Sanders era that I never really saw this or heard this. Did you all see this or hear this particular take that talking about economic disparity or anxiety was somehow racist or sexist, and that this was being pushed out by the Democrats? I missed this one, but yeah, I mean, for sure. Like if you were, they were trying to, and people ran with this, like, oh, if you're a Bernie supporter, you're a white guy and you're probably racist. And it was just like, dude, not at all. That wasn't, nope. That was one of the dumbest takes ever on earth. It still is a dumb take on the planet Earth. And I feel like I feel like the inverse is true. Like if you were willing to vote for a kind of, a doddering, probably, pretty strong racist, closet racist over Bernie Sanders because he was the better bet against a overt racist like that. Yeah. But somehow voting for that guy was racist. I don't get it. I don't get that take at all. I don't understand it, but somehow it got turned into that. And I'm just, again, people having their brains pushed out of their ears at a high rate of speed by the dumbest take ever. That happens every day. Bernie didn't like to talk about racism too much. I don't recall that one. I feel like he was pretty firmly against it. I think Bernie's was the general take on the Sanders side, and was that economic class issues were bigger than race issues, right? Because it was a way to unify, and maybe this is the bottom at the bottom of this take that I didn't really see, but or maybe I just didn't see it in this way. So here, the idea is this: the ruling class screwing the lower class, the working class over, was more important than people being racist. And I guess, I mean, for the most part, I think that's true, because I don't know how you get, as Jamal Thomas said, how do you cure racism? Like, what's the cure for racism? Like, wait, don't be racist. Like, I think the cure for racism is exposure to other people and exposure to other cultures and ways of life. And, and if you're walled off, if you're in your own group all the time, well, that actually probably inflates racism, right? The misunderstanding of other groups, or, not being sensitive to other people and how they operate, and, whatever. And whatever. Anyways, but I agree with the take that I think that class issues are really important, and that the elites have used, racial and, gender identities, these issues, to divide people. Like, some people don't like it, some people don't like it, some people like it, I mean, I think for the most part, people are way less racist than they used to be. And is there still racism? Hell yeah, of course. And some people are dicks, because they're racist dicks. But like, I think for the most part, people don't operate. For the most part, okay, don't generalize. For the most part, people don't operate on that. For the most part, is there institutional racism? Sure. I think it's all of that is getting less as time goes on, as people, are experiencing each other more and communicating more. And I feel like that's less of a thing as time goes on. That doesn't mean I don't think it exists. Creative says, I've learned that many racists say they are against racism. What are you trying to say? I mean, I guess. I just don't like, I think it's becoming less of a thing. But the thing is that if you get everybody hyped up on like that issue, and it actually was very effective in derailing support for Bernie Sanders and turning people off to Bernie Sanders, it was effective to say that the people that supported Bernie Sanders were racist, which was absolutely, like, again, the dumbest take in the world, because I don't think people that support Bernie Sanders were supporting a platform that was encompassing compassion, right? It was at the bottom of his platform was more compassion than the other representatives of the people who were saying, well, I'll help you out. They were saying, well, this is how we enact compassion, right, for the working class or for the people that are struggling. And if you enact compassion in these ways, people are gonna fare better, right? Whether they're white or black or whatever. Like, if you help people economically, everybody's gonna do better. Everybody's gonna feel better. And it was a compassionate take. And so I don't think that people were up in there going, I want I want to support Bernie Sanders because it just doesn't. Nothing about that was made any freaking sense, because I don't think that having compassion for all working people was somehow a racist idea. It was not. So I don't know. I'm sure people would want to argue with me on that, and I won't do it because I think my take is right, and I'll stand by it. I'm right, you're wrong. No, I don't know. No, I just think like what I'm saying makes a lot of sense. I stand by it. If you think I'm wrong, okay. But Brianna Joy Grace saying, still not over the fact that Democrats claimed it was racist to acknowledge economic anxiety for nearly a decade after Trump's 2016 win. And now this is on the front page of the LA Times. Economic anxiety is a point of unity in a divided country, survey finds. And this was the crux of the Sanders message, was that we can unite. That's the other thing, is his message was a message of unity. It's like, look, we all share these problems, right? We together all experience oppression from the ruling class, and we can all unite to dissolve this oppression from the at least a little bit. That was a uniting message. It was that the whole intention of it was a unifying message, and the idea that somehow it was not, or that there was something nefarious going on, was a concocted propaganda campaign. It was a very successful one, but it was actually not based on logic. It wasn't based on logic. Well, we're not even talking about the fact that he, Salt Lakers. We're not even talking about the fact that Bernie was not ended up not being like a real hero type. He wasn't really trying to lead anybody into any significant change. And if you didn't like him on that level, okay, that's fair. If you didn't like him on the fact that you thought he was a fake ass fraud and a phony, okay, it's cool. Fair enough. It's generally good. It's a genuinely good thing that Democrats are moving away from the claim that economic anxiety, this is from Ryan Grimm, among men is another way of saying racism and sexism, again, which doesn't make any sense. For those too young to remember, that was literally the accusation made against Bernie. The logic of it just really escapes me. And if somebody wants to explain it to me in a way, if somebody wants to explain that to me, I guess I'm willing to listen. What about that economic anxiety among people or men or young men is, I don't understand that. I want to know. I'm genuinely curious. Bernie knew he couldn't touch the race issue and towed the DNC line. Didn't he call Trump a racist? Didn't he outwardly call Trump a racist and a sexist? I feel like I remember that. Am I wrong? It's generally a good thing that, I feel like Bernie was pretty, I've heard him say that so many times. I feel like he's pretty vocal about that. For those too young to remember, and didn't he say that Trump was playing on people's fears around that? Bernie's good friend was a racist. Who's that? Generally a good thing that Democrats are moving away from the claim that economic anxiety among men is another way of saying racism, sexism. For those, I don't get that one. That was literally the accusation made against Bernie supporters. Democrats set out to study young men. Here are their findings. Okay, we'll look at this a little bit. A widely mocked project to get under the hood about why Democrats are losing young men has sobering results. They're not really all that. They're not interested. Oh, his good friend Joe Biden. I mean, okay, on the level that all politicians are hucksters, I get that. I'm just talking about the idea, the platforms, the concepts of the ideas that he was talking about. I don't see how that is. If you want to say he is a fraud, okay, I get all that. He is a huckster and a shuckster. I get that. But I'm just talking about his platform and the things that he was talking about, taxing the rich and Medicare for all and the oligarchy and like working class, upliftment. Like, I don't see anything. How is that? I don't see how that embodies like something weird. I don't know. But he did. Wayne the Pain. Bernie called Trump like every time he said his name, he was like the racist and sexist, vile Trump. He would say that all the time. Zalipa said the last gasp of hope I had for Dems expired that not so super Tuesday night. Yeah. I didn't, I'm just talking about dumb takes. But a lot of these dumb takes are again rooted in propaganda, right? Well crafted propaganda. Yeah. Well crafted propaganda. Let's see. All right. Bernie also called Maduro a brutal dictator, so he can't have it both ways. You're right. I'm not defending Bernie. I'm not. Does it sound like I'm defending Bernie? If it does, I get it. Okay. You guys. I see. You guys are mad. You guys are mad at Bernie Sanders. I see. You guys don't like Bernie Sanders. I see. Over on Odyssey, Reflect the Sun saying the same things. Sanders didn't want to discuss or support reparations, from what I recall. Yeah, no, you're right. How Jeff Bezos became, I think, because he thought that would be divisive, and I think he used the word divisive. Was that a shitty political move on his part? Probably. Let's see. Kate says, sometimes I'm not the one out louding something, but someone in the drugstore said it and shows up later. What? Oh, are you talking about? You're talking about the internet? I see. Yeah, that has happened to me, where I'm having a conversation with somebody and the person I'm talking to says something, and then that thing that they said shows up in my feed. Now's not the time, back in vogue with the Democrats. Are you talking about the Epstein thing? Did it pass? Okay. uh, okay. Okay. I'm just trying to send you a chat. There you go. Reflect the Sun says Zionist Bernie Sanders can go F himself. There you go. I'm sorry. I didn't mean it to turn into a discussion on Bernie Sanders and what a great guy he is. That's not. That's, I'm pretty I'm pretty demoralized by the whole thing. I just, it's also hard when there's, when yeah, there's a lot of racist a-holes out there, right? So it's easy to kind of like you can crank that up in so many different ways. That doesn't mean I'm a fan of racist a-holes, because fuck racist a-holes. So it's just that it can be very, very effective, right? It can be a very effective thing. Yeah. Just, Hillary is still out there for sure. Is she? Is Hillary? I guess she's trying. Why would anybody listen to Hillary Clinton on anything? But I guess they still give her the time of day. Bernie's still in the Senate, by the way. Creative Experiment says, I wish Medicare for all without talking about racism was possible, but in this capitalist colonial empire, it's not possible. Well, and look, I'm not saying you should avoid the conversation on racism. I think I was just describing his take on it, or his political, his trajectory was. I don't want to talk about it because I want to talk about things that are unifying people in other ways, right? I don't know. Again, I will refer to Jamal Thomas, who says, I don't know how you cure racism. I mean, you can, shame is something. Shame is one thing. It doesn't really make the person less racist, but it just makes them not talk about it. Somebody the other day was saying, like, because white people have been exposed to other cultures, as of late in the last few decades, like, they've had to adjust their behavior, right? They've had to adjust their racism. They have to turn the dial down on the racism. And that might not be, that's just in an outward way. That might not mean that they're actually not racist. It just means that they just know, oh, I can't say that here. Is that fixing racism, or is that actually driving people to be more racist? I wonder. That's just a sociological question. I think that just, again, I'll go back to, if you're just exposed, if you just know more, if you're just around, if you're just, maybe not in the older generations, right? Like, I don't know if you're going to cure the elderly of racism if they've already have a strong bit of it in their blood. But, I think for young people, it's, it's becoming like way less of a thing. Mostly. Not saying all, mostly. You can cure racism, but the patient is too far gone and don't want the cure anyways. You don't like orange people? Salt Lakers, that's incredibly racist. My God, have some compassion. I don't know that I think it's actually true that the Trump administration has, encouraged, a fair bit of re-emerging of like the racist muscle in people, for sure. For sure. A lot of the South will ride again people, for sure. Yeah, I think that's quantifiable. Rosa Parks was a Freemason. What does that have to do with the tea in China? Press the tea in China. But I also think, there's a lot of cities where, like, what's the there's statistics on certain areas and cities in the U.S. that have more mixed race children than any, and it's like, I'm not saying that having kids with other sexes is necessarily a cure for racism, but sure makes it a lot less of a thing, right? When all your kids have, it's hard to continue to be racist when all your children are of several different you know what I'm saying? That'll cure, that might cure your racism too, when you're, if all your kids are marrying other people from other places and other backgrounds and then having children, and then you're like, oh, okay. Like, it just stops being a thing. It's hard for it to continue to be a thing. You're right, Zalipa. The 40 acres and a mule thing is still, you're right. Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, but ring-tailed fox, that falls under the old people that can't get rid of it. But I think once they're, once they age out, it's, once they age out, it's like it becomes less of a thing as the generations go forward. People are just less concerned, less, like, oh, it's not oh my God. Are there little pockets of people that are like, oh, we gotta keep the races pure, and and that's sure, but like it just becomes less of a thing over time. People that are racist towards their own kids or grandkids prove some people have no soul. You're right. We could go on into a long discussion on like where racism comes from. A lot of it comes from self-loathing or anger or feeling less than. Feeling, and right, like any kind of trauma is, people who abuse other people are often traumatized. So it's just a point of understanding, I think, that the people that are racist are often have some kind of experience in their life that makes them feel like I am not a great person. I'm not good enough. So I have to prove that I'm better than you just based on my skin color. Right? And that's a sad place to be, man. I mean, you could think these people suck, and they do, but it's also sad. It's like sad. It sucks when people that are, I'm not talking about racism necessarily, but I know people that are traumatized to the point where they can't really control themselves. You know, they can't control being shitty to other people, but they can't control it. And it's like, and maybe they don't even realize what they're doing. And when you look at it that way, it's like, yeah, you can be really mad that they act like shitheads, but you could also understand that they can't, they're screwed up and they can't control themselves. And it's the same for people that are just born with like less availability of information, and they can't reach a certain level of discernment in their lives to better themselves or whatever, you know. And like a lot of those people are traumatized, and you know, it sucks. Religion. Yeah. Racism lasts no matter how mixed you are. Well, you know, and I'll end on this. We've had this little discussion, and I meant to cover more, but they're going to release the Epstein files, right? That's good. Oh, I was just going to say, well, it's interesting when you like colorism, right? Like it's a very big deal, like in other countries. And I you know, you could call it, I don't know, you could call it colonization, you know, people's minds. But the colorism thing is like, you know, a big deal in like Latin America, right? About how light or dark you are. But I'm hoping that we, you know, as people evolve and progress, you know, I'm hoping that we can evolve and progress beyond, you know, that thing of like, you know, this is good and this is not good and this is you know, like, I don't know. And just appreciating people for like who they are, right? Because you're born, you can't control what skin color you have when you're born, or what color eyes you have when you're born, or what, you know, or you can't control that. Not yet, anyways, not yet. We don't have the gene editing yet. We don't have the CRISPR build a baby yet. But I'm hoping that in the future, as people, you know, grow and evolve, that like we can stop, you know, that we can, you know, this could stop being such a, you know, a thing that people just focus on, right? And then we can get about the business of being good to each other. We can go about the business of being good to each other. Hopefully. All right. Thanks for hanging out, guys. I appreciate you. I don't know. Was that a, hopefully you all had a really good time. Okay. Thanks for joining in. Hope you enjoy the rest of your day. Appreciate y'all. Beware the bear.